I'm going to start with chapter 21 of Old Wolf. I hope you're enjoying the story so far. In the last chapter, there was mention of the wolves from the humans conversation. So it seems like our author is beginning to pull the two plots together. Chapter 21 starts with the wolves as they enter their hunt. Snow was falling by the time the wolves came near the clearing. Nishaba, working against his exhaustion, was happy to halt. "Wait here," he said. The four other wolves held back while Nishaba crept forward. Shivering, he stood behind a bush and peered out. His paw ached. His heart was beating so loudly, he wondered if the other wolves could hear it. Ears cocked, eyes wide, nose sniffing, Nishaba studied the open area. The clammy air smelled of hard cold. Tiny snowflakes drifted down slowly, as if reluctant to drop. The ground was already layered with a thin veil of snow, which in the fading dusk seemed to glow. All was silent. There was no sign of the raven or of elk. Nishaba stole a quick look behind. The other wolves were watching him carefully. Tanagan's eyes were worried. Garby's were sullen. Nikita and Pildown stood patiently a few steps to the rear, their breath puffy and white. Nishaba looked up. He could see no stars. The old wolf turned back to the clearing, trying to decide what to do. Where is that stupid raven? Should I wait for her? Should I try and find the elk on my own? They could be miles away by now, and this snow will make hunting much harder. Chapter 22. "I was hoping we were done with snow," Casey's mom said as she headed north and home not long after 5. She drove slowly, hands gripping the wheel. "Shouldn't have taken off the snow tires." "Probably turned to rain," said Casey, barely looking up from his archery book. On his head he wore the camping headlamp he'd retrieved from the glove compartment. The lamp cast a circle of light on the pages so he could read. "How about calling your dad to see if it's snowing where he is?" his mom said. We're still in cell phone range." She took one hand off the steering wheel, quickly grabbed her purse from below, and flipped it toward Casey. Casey rummaged through the purse, pulled out his mom's cell phone, and brought up his father's name. The phone rang 10 times. Finally, his father's voice. "Hey there, teenager." Beaming, Casey said, "Hi, where are you?" "Still in Philbeck. More complicated than I thought. Just finishing up." "Guess what?" "What?" "It's snowing." "You're kidding. It's raining here." Casey turned toward his mom. "He's just finishing. No snow, just rain." She said, "Ask him when I'll be home." "Mom wants to know." "You're breaking up. When will you be home?" Casey said in a louder voice. "Can't hear." The phone went dead. "We're out of range." Casey put the phone back into his mom's purse. "I do wish they'd put a cell tower up here. Be so much easier if we had service." She put on the car's headlights. "I guess," said Casey, returning to his book. His mom drove on, concentrating on the road. The wipers swished back and forth in a rhythmic beat. Casey glanced up. The driving snow looked like arrows coming right at them. Chapter 23. Nishaba took another quick glance back at his wolves. It was a mistake. He was sure they sensed his uncertainty. Mockery showed on Garby's face. Tanagan shifted uneasily. "Caw!" Coming from right overhead, the sound took Nishaba by surprise. Merla was perched on a tree branch, her blackness a hole in the falling snow, her beady eyes bright. Whether she had just landed or had been there all along, watching him, Nishaba did not know. "You are slow," said the bird. "We're here, aren't we?" Nishaba snarled. The raven cocked her head to one side. "I've decided you're actually 12 years old." Nishaba felt deep hatred for the bird. How dare she talk to him this way, in front of his pack? Had they heard? It took all his willpower to stay. "Where are the elk?" he demanded. Merla leaned forward, opened her beak, stuck out her black tongue, a silent laugh. "Tell me," cried Nishaba. "Are you truly ready?" the bird asked. I've got a good mind to eat you, hissed the wolf. Feathers and all? Even your bill. Thanks, I'll remember that. But are you ready, Wolf? I don't know if you can see that picture too well. Of course, he cried, not daring to look back to see what the pack was making of this exchange. A quarter mile now, said the raven. It should be quite easy for you all, if you do it right. To Nishaba, the way she said if felt like a jab of her beak. Just lead the way, the wolf said with exasperation. Merla fluffed her neck feathers, extended her wings, and gave a caw, and leaped into the air. Nishaba looked back. Follow me, he said to the wolves. As you followed the bird, Garby sneered. Nishaba pretended he had not heard, hurried after the raven. The other wolves fell in a line, gray shadows in the milky white air. Chapter 24. It was almost 6 and rapidly growing dark when Casey and his mother drove up their dirt driveway. The still falling snow was 2 inches deep on their road. The SUV had no trouble getting through, though it lurched once to the right. Casey's mom, muttering, "Have to fill in that rut," made an instant adjustment. They were never in danger. When they reached the house, she turned the car around. Casey jumped out and yanked up the garage door. A light went on automatically. A neat garage. Its walls were hung with the family's skis, ski and fishing poles, snowshoes, and a toboggan, and even a plow that could be mounted on an SUV. At the far end was a gun locker with 2 padlocks. Casey's mom backed the SUV into the garage so the front end was pointing toward the road, a winter practice. I don't mind winter snow, Bess said, getting out of the car as Casey pulled down the door. Accept it. But spring snow? That's old lady nature making fun of us. She headed for the front door of the house. Spring snow is stupid, Casey agreed. He stopped to scoop up a snowball and threw it at his mother's back, hitting her squarely. Thanks, she laughed. Hope your dad doesn't have any trouble. Oops, I think I might have skipped something. Sorry, guys. Thanks, she laughed. Hope your dad doesn't have any trouble. I forget, did he take off his snow tires? Don't think so. Good. Once inside, Casey dropped his backpack in the mudroom. As his mother adjusted the house heat, she said, I'll get dinner going. What are we having? Your fave, roast chicken, fried potatoes, grilled carrots, and raspberry jam cake with vanilla icing. 13 candles, she added, plus 1 to grow on. Casey made a thumbs-up sign, then headed for his room and his computer game. In moments, the arrow was aimed at the jungle, and he was waiting for animals to appear, ready to shoot at them. He remembered the words in the archery book. An arrow can be lethal when shot from a bow. I'm good, Casey told himself. So good. See him playing his computer game in the picture. Chapter 25. Merla fluttered ahead, black wings flapping as she sprang, barely flying from tree to tree. The light was growing dimmer, the snow still falling, but Nishaba never lost sight of her. He noticed that 7 other ravens were coming along, keeping to either side like escorts. No squawks or calls, just the soft flutter of their wings. The pack wolves, equally hushed, stayed a few steps behind Nishaba. The old wolf halted. From directly ahead, the musty smell of elk had reached him. The other wolves had also caught the scent. They stood by Nishaba's flanks, their breath rapid with excitement, their whimpering sharp with hunger. Merla landed on a branch directly in front of Nishaba. Now do you smell them? She asked, her voice low, full of scorn. Of course, Nishaba muttered. I've kept my part of the bargain, said the bird. Now you need to keep yours. Make sure you leave enough for us. Before Nishaba could reply, the raven flew up and disappeared. With a whisper of wings, the other ravens followed. The wolf wondered if they would stay near to watch the attack. He looked around at the wolves. Wait here, he said. I need to see the elk. You didn't investigate them before, did you? Said Garby. You're just taking orders from a bird. Nishaba, ignoring the remark, trotted forward a few yards. Between the spot where he now stood and where the elk were was a thicket of oak brush and a mountain shrub. There were aspen trees, too, their slender trunks little more than rods of white in the clotted gloom. The air was streaked with bits of silent, sifting snow. The old wolf listened intently. Now and again the elk mooed, squealed, and made muted grunts and soft barks. Neshaba had no doubt they were grazing. Knowing that elk had a keen sense of smell, he lifted his nose to get the direction of the wind. There was no movement. That was good. With luck, the elk would not smell them. Lowering his body into a crouch, Neshaba inched forward. The thicket was some 20 feet deep. Ground snow was sparse. Beneath the snow lay a thick brown matting of last fall's dead leaves, allowing Neshaba to step forward without a sound. As he worked his careful way, he stepped on a small branch, and it snapped. The old wolf froze, fearful that the elk had heard. When there was no reaction, he continued to creep forward. Nearing the far side of the grove, he moved still slower and then stopped altogether. Only then did Neshaba realize that he had hunted this spot recently, but without success. This was where he had seen that white-haired human. Hidden by trees and bushes, he stole a look. He saw no humans, but he did see an elk cow standing like a sentry to one side of the small clearing. She was heavy and muscular, 4 feet tall at the tail, perhaps 500 pounds in weight. Her reddish-brown fur was shaggy, scruffy in spring molt. Her head and neck were held up and out, with warm, white breath puffed from her big nose. Pointed ears were pricked forward as she turned her head this way and that, alert for danger. In the middle of the clearing stood 5 other cows, just as large as the sentry. They were pawing at the thin snow with their sharp, hard hooves, working to uncover new grass, then bending down to eat. Neshaba saw 1 calf, then 4 more. As the raven had told him, they were still young and still spotted. To Neshaba's eyes, it appeared as if the sentry cow had chosen her place because the clearing was small and surrounded by a circle of aspen. Though there were some gaps among the trees, the area was closed in, offering natural protection. All the same, Neshaba quickly perceived that if he and the wolves could block those gaps, the elk would be trapped, as if in a cage. How easy, then, to kill a calf or 2. Even better, if the wolves moved fast enough and the elk panicked, the pack might bring down a cow. One of the calves moved toward the cow, its mother, Neshaba supposed. The calf looked to weigh 40, maybe 50 pounds. As it moved, it limped. Something was wrong with its rear left leg. That meant the calf would not be able to move as fast as the others, making it an easier target. The young elk began to nurse. Neshaba's decision was instantaneous. He would go after the hobbled calf. The thought of eating made his stomach growl. Turning, he stole back to the pack, moving quickly as he dared. Stop there for today. I hope you enjoyed it. So think a little bit about what you think might happen, what could go right, what could go wrong, and stay tuned. See you later, Osage.